Hello my Dragon Seeds, welcome to Fantasy Haven. This is my spoiler review of the second episode of House of the Dragon, second of his name, of the House of the Dragon. This review will delve into book spoilers. Three for three, huh? Not too shabby. Episode 3 is yet another great episode. If we can be cliché and divide Game of Thrones into two halves, second of his name takes the best parts of both. The fascinating character work and dialogue of the early seasons, with the high-budget battle scenes of the later seasons. The first two episodes were basically a 2-hour prologue, setting up the grand chessboard that is the Dance of the Dragons. This week we saw some knights moving into new positions, a few pawns added to the board, Matt Smith placing his king right next to a rook, and I don't have a clue where this chess metaphor is going. Now that we've established this period of Targaryen rule, it's fun to see the world beginning to breathe and expand. Westeros is beginning to feel alive again, with countless lords and ladies and knights milling about in the background, giving the episode a great sense of scale. The later seasons of GOT cut away at all of these side characters and extras, leaving the show feeling empty and oddly small. So it's been 3 years, which is a bigger time skip than I was expecting. I love how they're aging the characters up ever so slightly. Viserys' hairline is running away faster than Daemon runs towards certain death, Rhaenyra has embraced her moody teenage phase, and Alicent's newfound confidence, as well as her new makeup and costume, has me believing that yes, she's grown up into a 17-year-old. This is a big episode for our Targaryen trio. Big surprise. Viserys is holding a grand hunt to preemptively mock Bobby B 200 years in advance, and he looks like a man who's slowly being crushed by stress and responsibility. Surrounding him are sycophants and political vultures. Lord Jason Lannister wants to wed Rhaenyra, Otto wants Rhaenyra to wed Aegon, and pretty much everyone assumes that Aegon is now effectively the heir, if not officially. Viserys drowns his sorrow in wine like all great kings. His standout moment this episode has to be his emotional breakdown to Alicent, lamenting the tensions and difficulties he's caused by naming Rhaenyra as his heir. It's so fascinating what they've done with his character. In Fire and Blood, Viserys names Rhaenyra out of unconditional love, and that's that. Having this Viserys be so conflicted about his decision adds so many layers of complexity and vulnerability to him. He seems torn between grief and regret over Emma's death, which drives his support for Rhaenyra's claim, and the power of prophecy, which tempts him to fulfill his destiny and name Aegon as his heir. The symbolism behind the white stag as a sign of royal portent, inspired by actual medieval English history, added a level of mythology and culture I didn't expect to see. It makes perfect sense why a prophecy-obsessed king would place genuine importance on this beast. Kill the white stag, Boris Johnson becomes the heir. Simple. Meanwhile, Rhaenyra gets angsty over her tenuous position and storms off. We get a fun road trip with Criston Cole, who thankfully doesn't wear his goofy helmet this episode. The cake jibe to Lady Redwine contrasts her gif-worthy episode 1 comment about cake, showing that she is growing to accept the responsibility of her new position, and is fearful of losing it. But Rhaenyra is not some perfect princess. In fact, she's very self-pitying in this episode. Criston brings her down to earth, letting her know just how lucky she is to be a royal, and the responsibility that comes with it. After all, she elevated a commoner like him to the Kingsguard. I wanted to see more of Criston this episode. He's still a very mysterious character. Perhaps his turn to incel darkness is going to be portrayed as a shocker, but I wanted to find out more about him, especially his Dornish heritage. It hasn't been brought up since. I do like that they're establishing a friendship. It remains to be seen just how their falling out occurs. The ancestor of Bobby B's murderer tries to slay yet another royal, and Rhaenyra lets her anger out. Later in the episode she sees the White Hart, but I don't think it symbolises her being the rightful heir because, it's just a deer, it's meant to be bullshit. No, it's her response to the animal that's important. She can be ruthless and violent when under threat, but will not go out of her way to harm something. It's great to see new characters this episode. I had assumed Lord Hightower was going to be a cameo, but no, here he is, bossing Otto around. Otto, like Daemon and Rhaenyra and Corlys, must fight for his position and his power. Hobart is delightfully smug and cringe in this episode. He makes Otto seem likeable. The Lannister twins, played by Big Hugh, are a nice treat. I like the stark contrast between the serious, anxious Tyland and the arrogant, self-assured Jason. We also meet Harwin and Larys, although their introduction is a bit lacking. The camera doesn't really take time to properly focus on them, and I wouldn't be surprised if average viewers won't remember them even being in this episode. Larys harvesting some data from the gossiping ladies was fun, but Harwin sort of disappeared into the background. Vaemond was lots of fun. We are losing! His discontent with Daemon and proclivity to stir shit up is probably foreshadowing the part from Fire and Blood where he tries to become Corlys' heir by claiming Rhaenyra's kids to be bastards. They've made them brothers instead of cousins in this show to streamline things, I imagine. Also, Laenor has had an utter glow-up, holy seahorse. His Master of Complaints insult shouldn't have worked, but for some reason it made me laugh, I don't know why. Nice to see Sea Smoke as well, although I think the script should have introduced his dragon riding abilities earlier, even if it was just a line of dialogue. Speaking of the Stepstones, I have mixed opinions. Well, that's not true, it's mostly positive. The battle scene is fun, the fighting is awesome, it just doesn't make much sense. How are the Velaryons losing? I get that the Triarchy men are hiding in caves and they're using guerrilla tactics and so on, but they're living on islands. Just cut them off, starve them out. How has this taken 3 years? I would understand if it were a stalemate, the Triarchy constantly sending new men, one side takes an island, the other side snatches back lost territory, it becomes a total mess. But how is Corlys actively losing? How are they running out of supplies? The thing is, I don't care too much. It's only episode 3, it's not been built up much, and it's not a very consequential war. It exists as dumb, fun spectacle, and a vehicle for Corlys and Daemon's characters. I have issues with the Battle of the Bastards being illogical because it's such an important story moment. This isn't, it's just fun. Would I prefer a more logical set of circumstances? Yes. Would I prefer some actual tactics in my medieval fantasy show? Yes. The crab feeder sending all of his army out just to kill the wounded Daemon, only to be surprised by a sudden Velaryon army and Sea Smoke? Yeah, kind of random. Oh, some people wondered why Rhaenys isn't riding Meleys into battle, but I get it. I'm pretty sure in Fire and Blood, Corlys doesn't want Rhaenys to fly into battle, so he probably forbade her from joining the Stepstones War. I wonder if this will be brought up in a future episode. Daemon does not speak for the last portion of the episode, which I didn't even notice on my first watch. His facial expressions and body language says everything. The fact that he goes on this suicide charge, choosing to face victory or death instead of letting his brother snatch the glory from him, says everything you need to know about this unstable, proud, bloodthirsty prince. At first I was really disappointed with the crab feeder's death. In Fire and Blood he gets beheaded in a 1-to-1 duel, but over time I've actually grown to like it. In the Inside the Episode they spoke about rebirth. Rhaenyra ends the episode covered in the blood of a beast she slew in self-defense. Daemon is covered in the blood of his nemesis at the climax of a war. Viserys struggles to kill a defenseless creature while the sycophants applaud him, and he promises Rhaenyra she will not be supplanted as heir. Thank you for watching. Hit the like and subscribe button to see more of my Hot D videos.